friends, do you guys remember who we learned about yesterday? Oh, that's right, it was Moses. God chose Moses to rescue his people from slavery in Egypt. God brought the people out of Egypt and into the wilderness and led them on a very long journey. Now, we don't know how many miles they walked or how far they traveled, but what we do know is they were in the wilderness for 40 years. That's a really long time. That would be like if we started wandering in the wilderness today, we wouldn't stop until the year 2060. Whew, that's such a long time, but can you imagine how the Hebrew people felt following God into the wilderness and staying there for that long? I'm sure they were hot, tired, and really overeating the same meal every day. But finally, the time for their wandering was coming to an end. God was ready to show them their new home, and the people were so excited. But they were also a little bit afraid because the first place God told them to go was a place called Jericho. You see, this was a very large city with very high walls, and it almost looked like the walls could touch the sky. And the people looked at the walls in the city of Jericho and began to doubt God. There was no way they were going to overtake this city. It was too big, the city was too strong, and there were too many people living in Jericho. They began to doubt if God was even with them. They turned to their new leader Joshua and asked him what to do. You see, when Moses died, Joshua had become their new leader, and if anyone knew what to do, it was Joshua. But it wasn't Joshua who had a plan. It was God. And the plan that God had was not the plan Joshua expected. You see, God likes to do the unexpected. He likes to do things that we would never imagine. Over and over and over again, God reminded Joshua and the people to be strong and courageous. They all needed to believe that God, who they couldn't see, was stronger than the walls of Jericho, the walls that they could see. So God told Joshua the plan, and Joshua helped the people get ready. Early one morning, that's like my worst nightmare. I hate mornings. Who wants to do something in the mornings? Okay, anyway. Early one morning, Joshua and his army put on their armor. They grabbed their swords and they began marching around the city. That's right, all they did was walk around the city every day for 7 days. But on the seventh day, they didn't just walk around the city one time. Nope, they walked around the city 7 times. That is a lot of walking, especially early in the morning. The 7th time they walked around the city, God told them to blow their trumpets and to yell and to scream. And even though it didn't make any sense, when they started yelling and screaming, the walls of the city began to shake. They began to crack. They began to fall. The strong walls that once surrounded the city were no longer walls. They were falling to the ground. God had helped Joshua and the people conquer the city of Jericho. God did the unexpected. This was just one of many battles that God won for the people. God was with Joshua, and God was with the people. The people would continue to have moments of doubt, moments where they didn't believe that God was with them, moments where they doubted what God said. But even when they doubted and even when they were scared, God was with them. Many years later, right before Joshua's death, he reminded the people again of all that God had done for them. He reminded them to be strong. He reminded them to believe in God, even when things were hard. And he encouraged them to expect the unexpected. And the people did. They believed for a while. But just like before, they began to doubt. Was God really the strongest? Were their lives really better with God? Was God really with them? And they began to push away. God couldn't remain. Sin drove him away. So Joshua and God's people began to hope and to pray, God, could you come back to stay? Can you imagine telling people that God helped you conquer a city? A city like Jericho, just by walking around it? It seems impossible. It doesn't make any sense. It was unexpected. Have you ever had something in your life happen that just seemed impossible or unexpected? One of my personal favorites that happened to me happened while I was in grad school. My roommate and I lived in a house that backed up to some trees, and one morning I was making eggs for breakfast, pretty normal, and I went to throw the shells into the trees, also something I did on a regular basis. But when I opened the back door, the unexpected happened. In my backyard was a peacock. Yes, long, beautiful feathers and all, and it was standing in my backyard. It didn't make any sense. I remember calling my roommate and telling her what had happened, and she almost didn't believe me until I sent her a picture. And then I remember calling animal control thinking this peacock has to belong to someone, and they tried to convince me it was a turkey until I showed them a picture. Peacocks don't just live in the woods in North Carolina. Someone at some point had a peacock as a pet and it escaped. But would you know that that peacock still lived in the backyard when we moved? We didn't see him very often, but we named him Phantom. We only saw him a handful of times, but every once in a while we heard him in the woods. While that story seems a little bit silly, it is also very true. It reminds me that we should always expect the unexpected, because God is a God of the unexpected.